One more time here in 2023. Good morning on Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer down here, John here, you there. Good morning, D. Graham. First under the limbo bar this morning. We've got news, and it's really interesting stuff. We got a lot of soccer over there this morning, and we do have some Atlanta United news that was officially official, of course, after we go off the air yesterday, and we'll get into that. And we've also got some news in Major League Soccer. We've got news in Italy on a couple of different fronts. And in the grand scheme of things, like I said, we've got a lot of soccer over there today. Grand scheme of things, there's a lot of economics in play, and it's stuff that we need to pay attention to for more than one reason. But so a lot of soccer over there. We've got Major League Soccer, got Atlanta United, got whatever's on your mind for 2023. And this is the last chance. Well, actually, tell you what, we'll extend it. But, I mean, if there's anything on your mind about 2023 you want to get off your chest, good, bad, different, indifferent, ugly, overachiever, underachiever, stuff that we missed, stuff that you didn't get the chance to talk about until today, put it out here on the table. Right there. Think of the table, a metaphysical table. Go ahead and put it on the table. We'll talk about it today, and then we will once again, we're not on live on Monday because Monday's New Year's Day. And so it'll be another Soccer Over There marathon, 9, noon, and 3 to get you through your New Year's Day. Then we'll be back where Monday's on a Tuesday, and we'll start things off and running with everything on your mind. We'll see if Drew can drop by. We'll see if Bart has recovered from his particular bowl game by then. I don't know if he will, considering everything that's going on in the Bulls, and that's going to be opening kickoff coming up in just a little bit. Yeah, Niall, we're going to talk about that. And that's what we'll go through. Hugo Lloris and LAFC. Niall is requesting that it makes sense. I don't know if we can make it make sense, Niall, but we'll talk about it. So that's part of what's on the table today. So Lloris, Crepeau, Vial, Italy, coaches, Ancelotti, David Moyes, what happened in the Prem yesterday, VAR, all those things. We're going to put them out here on the table this morning. So now it's time for opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's the QR code for those of you watching on Twitch and on the YouTube channel and on the 280-character app. And thanks you for putting up with us in all of these different directions that we decided to go this year. And we're going to continue to do this again next year. We're gonna put it on all these different platforms. So if you can't watch us one way, you can't watch us on the app, you can't listen to us on the app or whatever. You can't watch us or listen to us on soccerdownhere.net. You can do it YouTube, Twitch, 280-character app. Anyway, that's the QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget, and thanks to everybody who has started their day with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, that you can use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, meaning our friends at Kickoff Coffee, take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives that they have earmarked themselves that are cool. And you get 10, and they will invest that 10% going forward after you have taken 15% by using the code SoccerDownHere15 with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. So yesterday, and this is I guess it's going to be something of a personal preference question this morning. The question of the day has to do with Pop-Tarts. First and foremost, yesterday, I don't know how many of you got the chance to see the bowl game with the edible mascot. You have a bowl sponsor who is completely and totally self-aware. And they wanted to sit there, much like our friends at Duke's, who had the bowl game in Charlotte that Bart went to and has hopefully survived, with West Virginia beating the ever-loving pants off of North Carolina. We have bowl sponsors who are self-aware. And the response that folks got and the conversations that folks were having about Pop-Tarts and the bowl game and an edible mascot and coming out of a toaster with fireworks, all that kind of stuff. This is, I guess, a multi-pronged question. Could there be a soccer competition that could have something like this and be this self-aware and still consider itself being taken seriously? I mean, could you imagine if the Pop-Tarts wanted to be, say, the sponsor of the Open Cup? Would the Open Cup want something like that? I would hope so. Because if you got a sponsor that was that invested in you, and yes, at the Open Cup final, you probably would have the same fireworks and, he has risen, courtesy of our friends at the Sicko Committee. Rich, the MLS All-Star Game. Rich is suggesting the MLS All-Star Game have a sponsor, something like that. And what I may do, Rich, as a public service, as a part of what we have been discussing here this past year, we might, now that we brought this up, since you mentioned the MLS All-Star Game, what I may do is on Monday repost how we all here, Twitch Pitch, SDH, everybody, how we fixed the on-field product of the MLS All-Star Game. I might repost that. In addition to the SOT episodes that'll be on all day, I may start the day with how we fixed the All-Star Game. That's probably what I'll do. So the MLS All-Star Game needs to have a sponsor that is self-aware and can enjoy themselves and perhaps put fun into the MLS All-Star Game. Think something like that. David, have Chattanooga FC play the Red Wolves for the Moon Pie or the Little Debbie. They just couldn't do it on a Friday. Because if I remember correctly, Little Debbie is owned by folks who are tied to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and part of their tenets are that they leave Friday alone. Nothing happens on a Friday. So I could see, David, Chattanooga and the Red Wolves in a crossover episode, taking on each other for either the Moon Pie or the Little Debbie or something, or the Crystal. If you had Crystals, because I think their corporate office is still there. If you had something like that, that would be pretty cool. But if they were playing for the Moon Pie, David, you'd have to have RC Royal Crown Cola as a sponsor as well. So what you might be doing is bringing other sponsors in under the tent for FOMO reasons. Fear of missing out. If the Moon Pie is engaged, then RC Cola has to jump in there. And I don't know what it is. It might be something of the makeup of RC Cola and how it combines with the Moon Pie, but that works. Most other colas, you sit there and you literally feel like you're chewing a radial tire. But Moon Pie by itself, fine. Moon Pie, other sodas, not fine. Moon Pie, Royal Crown Cola, works. David's good with the whole plan. Bart is saying the OSG Sports Moon Pie Bowl in Chattanooga. We could do the review. Yeah, we could host the review from there. We could do it from Findlay. And that would be pretty epic. But we would have to come up with teams to do it. I mean, because there aren't enough bowl. There were problems with bowl-eligible teams as it was. Do we turn it into an all-star game? Do we turn it into teams since Chattanooga is FCS territory, 1AA territory, do we turn it into 1AA teams that don't make the playoff? And we have the Moon Pie Bowl at Findlay Stadium, somewhere in and around, in between the time that the playoffs, the semifinals end and the championship game. You have like a 1AA showcase. You have an FCS showcase at Findlay Stadium. The Moon Pie Bowl. Pars, we absolutely do need an East versus West. And I think that was one of our initial fixes with Major League Soccer. But what I wanted to discuss as a part of this was the discussion that seemed to envelop the 280-character app during the bowl game yesterday was, in addition to how the marketing genius our friends with the Pop-Tarts were favorite flavors, and they were all over the place. So let me have it. For those of you that partake in Pop-Tarts, let me know. What is the opinion that works for you? What is the opinion that doesn't work for you? And Rich, yes. Rich says, remember though, this is American soccer. I have to take everything seriously so it can be considered serious by England. Bart, you might have it. Pars, frosted strawberry. I'm right there with you. I'm a frosted cherry. I'm a frosted guy in general. I really can't go wrong with any frosted flavor. The blueberry, the strawberry, the frosted cherry, brown sugar cinnamon, Nile in with the strawberry Pop-Tarts this morning. There were opinions that were floating around the 280 character app that you could not toast your Pop-Tarts. Somehow that was some kind of alien invasion. Oh, I absolutely did the frosted tips in the 90s. Oh, on the hair, no. But I did spend a lot of time in the sun. I did spend a lot of time in the sun, so it did blonde out more than normal. Nile, there's nothing wrong with not frosting them. It's just that there was an anti-opinion about toasting the Pop-Tarts, and folks were just in all kinds of lather about the idea. It was one of the more polarizing things. The flavors that came across, there were a lot of normal flavors and a lot of normal intake when it came to Pop-Tarts. But therein lies itself the idea of, okay, everybody was digging the Pop-Tarts, but then when the toasted, non-toasted brigade came out, that was when everybody got up into an uproar and an outrage. Literally, this was something that folks were on a hill and ready to die about. Not toasting your Pop-Tarts. I mean, I can go either way, but when someone literally says, no, you're not supposed to toast your Pop-Tarts, you're going, really? Really? You're that stodgy and staid in your idea, STAID. You're that stodgy about your idea. Morning, Harry. And maybe this morning, as a part of our discussions, we sit there and we let everybody else know what's going on with our favorite flavors. Like I said, I'm a frosted guy, and pretty much any frosted direction, you can't go wrong. But no, I did not have frosted tips, Pars. Like I said, I spent a lot of time outdoors, played a lot of golf, so I blonded out. So maybe that could have been frosted tips. I didn't have enough time to sit there and focus on, let's sit there and work on my hair. No. I didn't do that in the 90s or the 80s, to show you where it was in high school and college. So late 80s, early 90s, college and high school, no. There were no frosted tips by design. I did not look like NSYNC or anything like that. So let's start the Pop-Tarts discussion this morning. What you like, what you don't. Toasting, yes or no. All these kinds of things. That's part of the discussion. Yeah, there are Eggo Pop-Tarts now. There are some really nasty flavors. Eggo it's like, why would you, if you were in the Pop-Tarts deal, if you were going down the Pop-Tarts rabbit hole, and I mean, there's some weird flavors of Pop-Tarts. Trust me. There are weird flavors of Pop-Tarts. But Eggo, why? I feel like Ross again. Why? Why would you do anything involving another dessert if you're working on Pop-Tarts? Literally, if you're working on Pop-Tarts as your dessert, that's what you want, or, your breakfast food. I want Pop-Tarts. Why would you have a waffle-flavored Pop-Tart? Why would you do that? I don't know. And there are some wild Pop-Tart. There are some wild Pop-Tart flavors, man. I mean, initially there were, of the four flavors, apple currant was one of the original four flavors. That got shifted Yeah, that got shifted over time to where apple currant no longer existed. Banana bread, Apple Jacks. I mean, Apple Jacks I might be able to live with just because it's like frosted apples. It's not apple currant, it's Apple Jacks. Frosted banana bread, chocolatey chip pancakes. I mean, that one might be interesting. These are the new ones. The newer anyway. So the newer flavors. Now, all the Pop-Tart flavors. Here we go. Favorites. I don't know why Eggo is a favorite. I really have no idea. Why you would double dip a dessert, I have no idea. And Harry, this is what I'm saying. Just do an Eggo if you want an Eggo Pop-Tart. Just do an Eggo. Eggo Pop-Tart. You don't have to combine the two. You want a waffle, you get an Eggo. You want a Pop-Tart, you get a Pop-Tart. Why would you want a waffle Pop-Tart? It's counterintuitive. Okay, now here's your Frosteds. Blueberry, brown sugar cinnamon, cherry, chocolate chip, frosted chocolate fudge, which to me has been sneaky good, confetti cupcake, so basically, like a birthday cake kind of deal, cookies and cream, grape, hot fudge sundae, pumpkin pie, frosted raspberry, frosted s'mores, strawberry, wildlicious wild berry, whatever that means, simply frosted harvest. I'm guessing they're allegedly healthier. Snickerdoodle, which would be very interesting. Unfrosted blueberry, unfrosted brown sugar cinnamon, and unfrosted strawberry. So those are the flavors that are on the board right now. They have almost 24 separate varieties of Pop-Tarts. And Michael, you are absolutely correct. Throw all the new flavors in the garbage. I could understand the Apple Jacks. Yeah, Niall, this is the thing. People might as well just have Eggos. Literally. You don't have to cross the streams here with the idea of an Eggo Pop-Tart. You want an Eggo waffle, have an Eggo waffle. You want a Pop-Tart, have a Pop-Tart. You don't have to mix the two. And it's not like you're sitting there going, okay, I'm going to have a double breakfast by having an Eggo Pop-Tart. No, it doesn't work that way. Have one or the other. Sometimes having one or the other is the best way to go about something. You don't necessarily have to have both. Porque no los dos is not what you're looking for here with the Pop-Tart. You're not. You're absolutely not. There are times when porque no los dos doesn't need to be pursued. But 23 separate flavors right now of Pop-Tarts. The Frosteds, like I said, I can pretty much deal with the Frosteds, but the Eggo seems to be the least popular because you're double desserting here. D. Graham says the new hot chocolate Oreos are really good. Okay. David, I think cherry and strawberry are the only two you would eat normally, frosted or normal. Niall, strawberry can't get enough of. And Niall with an interesting regional thought. Imagine if they made a Coke Pop-Tart. And I imagine that Niall is discussing the soft drink and not the contraband. If you had soft drink Pop-Tarts and you released them in the South or the Southeast, that would be interesting. That would be very interesting. Michael knows he's in the minority, but strawberry, not frosted or toasted. And yes, the non-frosted are hard to find. Yeah, because everybody's all jacked up about having frosted Pop-Tarts. But no, I understand the strawberry, not frosted or toasted. I get that. I absolutely do. It is Pop-Tarts down here, Niall. It's the opening kickoff. But that, as you well know, sir, opening kickoff can go any direction. And that's the idea. And we get everybody kind of rolling into the day. Emilio with the frosted look could have rocked the John Oates or Keith Hernandez look. Who had the idea of frosted grape? I don't know. I mean, it's okay. I'm not going to sit there and perhaps jump into the bin and go there first. Niall, Are s'mores Pop-Tarts good? Asking for a friend. So once again, here's the there you go. Pars, that's the clipped hot take of the year. John saying, of course he did frosted tips in the 90s. But like I said, only through natural vitamin D, not through hair product of my own. D. Graham, Pop-Tarts have diminished so much from my childhood. There's almost no filling now. Rich, birthday cake Pop-Tarts, but you toast the s'mores flavor. See, now that's a good play. That is a very good play. Toasting the s'mores flavored ones. That's a good end run to accomplish your goal. I like that. Bart, frosted fudge lover, pop those in the microwave 10 seconds and they're magic. Niall doesn't toast his. There's nothing wrong with that. Michael Head, making another worthless all-star game. When we're talking sponsors, it's what the sport needs. And now Niall wants a Pop-Tart. Bart, this might be our solution. SoCon in the Big South in the Moon Pie Bowl, presented by OSG Sports and Moon Pie and or Little Debbie and the city of Chattanooga. You get Crystal, Moon Pie, and Little Debbie together, and you do it on a day other than a Friday, I think we got it. I think we're there. But seriously, the Open Cup needs a sponsor. You get the Pop-Tarts to sponsor the Open Cup, the U.S. Open Cup. Come out with the pie plate at the end of it all. Come up through the top of the toaster. Present the whole thing. Yes, the OSG Sports Moon Pie Bowl in Chattanooga. And like I said, we'll get into all of that. But yeah, this morning I wanted to, because of all of the furor. Well, and you're not wrong. Niall says, the soft drink, the South would go mad. Bart, opening kickoff brought to you by Pop-Tarts. True. I saw for those that follow Bart on social media, when he was in Charlotte, did the pepperoni bowl thing, the pepperoni roll thing with the Duke's mayo. Apparently, in a bit of a work, the archdiocese, the Episcopalian Archdiocese of West Virginia, thought that the TV guys were committing sacrilege by having what Bart had on his social media and they had on national television. And the only thing that could absolve them from that was a visit to West Virginia and perhaps burning a couch. Pop-Tarts are Kellogg's, yeah. Sponsors of U.S. Soccer. You'd like to think maybe that connection would be there. You'd like to think that they would. Niall wants now a T-shirt that says Pop-Tarts down here. And we'll have Hudson work on it. Yes, these are the conversations that U.S. Soccer needs. You need sponsors for events. You need folks drawing eyes to it. You need to bring in the casual fan. So what do? You bring in the active Pop-Tart. You bring in a mascot that is active and would enjoy the process, which apparently they did. The mascots on the sidelines were handing out Pop-Tarts to members of the media, and the handlers were saying, are we supposed to accept these and eat them in front of the Pop-Tart mascots? And the handlers were yelling out, yes, that is their dream. A bowl game and a mascot and a sponsor that was totally self-aware. We need that for the Open Cup. We definitely need it for the Open Cup. And so Bart admits, yes, he has to return to Trinity Episcopal Church in Morgantown for atonement. And perhaps burn a couch outside their front stoop. All right, so continue with the dessert takes this morning and the Pop-Tarts and all that kind of stuff. It was something that just obviously crossed over every aspect of social media yesterday, as it should have, because it was creepy and tremendous all at the same time. So that's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, there's your QR code for those of you who are watching on the different ways that we bring the show to you every single morning, the 280-character app or the Twitch or on the YouTube. Once again, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, we've got Atlanta United news. We'll start there and build our way out to soccer over there territory, because there's a decent amount of soccer over there stuff that's going to take a lot to discuss here on the last day of the calendar year. for us anyway. Traffic. If you missed it yesterday, we caught up with Sonny D'Alessandro, the co-owner of Tulsa Athletic, and found out what it's been like for them to be a champ in the NPSL. 8 new teams coming into the NPSL. What lessons would the ownership give to those first-year clubs? We got into that. So it was a good conversation with Sonny D'Alessandro, the co-owner of our friends at Tulsa Athletic, the reigning champs in the NPSL. That is up on the network. Later today, we're going to catch up with Jaden Hibbert at UConn, and we're also going to catch up with his head coach, Christopher Bondi, the number 1 draft pick for Atlanta United in the Super Draft. So we're going to catch up with Jaden Hibbert. We're going to catch up with his coach up at UConn. That'll be posted later this afternoon on the network. And tomorrow on the network, later in the afternoon, we're going to have a conversation up with Brett Teach, the new head coach at Columbus United in the NPSL. So we'll catch up with him. And so that'll be some of your traffic and some of the listening that you can have coming up this weekend. So a pretty decent weekend as we all get ready to turn the calendars to 24 from 2023. Remember, once again, Monday, we've been programming this out loud. So we're probably going to end up starting with with fixing the MLS All-Star game. We'll start there on Monday morning, and then we'll be Soccer Over There marathon to get you through the rest of the day, now probably at 10, 1, and 4 to get you through the day. And we'll be back with Monday on a Tuesday. Bart knows he's on notice. We'll see if Drew Dickinson can join us for Tuesday to get everything off and running into next week and everything turning into 2024. No New Year's Day show. Like I said, this is when we talk about Tuesday on a Monday or Monday on a Tuesday. That's when we're talking about last week, Bart, or this week when you were on the show. So Bart's Tuesday becomes Bart's Monday next week only, or this week and next week only, because no New Year's Day show. Like I said, it'll be a marathon. We'll be fixing the MLS All-Star game, and it'll be a Soccer Over There marathon on Monday to get us ready for Tuesday. Yes, no, you have not been missing anything, Bart. So no, Bart, 10 o'clock Tuesday next week. You're on notice. You hopefully will have washed all of the mayo out of your clothing by then and all the celebrating, and perhaps atoned for your sins with the pepperoni roll. But no, Bart, 10 o'clock Tuesday. No, and Ricky, we can continue to have the Pop-Tarts discourse. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Frosted strawberry. So nothing wrong with that, Ricky. Like I said, opening kickoff is it was Pop-Tarts based, and it probably will be an underlying element throughout the show as folks kind of drift in and drift out. News official yesterday, and yes, Ricky, we will be getting into Carlo coming up in just a sec. Officially yesterday, Johnny Vial heading to Atletico San Luis, and the pictures are up. He's wearing the jersey, and that makes it officially official. We talked about it when it was initially working its way through the grapevine. This is a very cool move for those of us who have seen Jonathan Vial's game continue to grow and evolve the way that it has. And it'll be with his national team ties tied to El Tri. This could help him out there as well. So it's a cool move for Johnny Vial. Go to Atletico San Luis. If I'm not mistaken, Jurgen Damm is there too. So next step for Johnny Vial, he leaves Atlanta United and his time with the Twos, and he ends up with Atletico San Luis starting short order since he took the picture with the jersey on. So probably heading down there for the Clausura and getting ready for his time down there. So it's great to see Johnny Vial take the next step in his career, heading to Atletico San Luis. And so we'll see where that goes when it comes to his national team minutes, national team call-ups, those kinds of things. But to see someone with his artistry and his three-dimensional thought when it came to the game on the field, really looking forward to seeing those next steps and seeing how he continues to grow, evolve, and mature down there. Next step at Atletico San Luis. Okay, the two coaching notes that came across very, very early this morning. Ricky, thank you, Carlo, for not leaving us. That was the first big thing that came across. And you have Carlo Ancelotti now staying at Real Madrid. Staying. He is not going anywhere. That in and of itself, with all of the talk about Brazil and Carlo Ancelotti, you know what? I'm going, and now I'm not. Ancelotti has signed a new deal with the club through 2020 until 2026. 10 trophies won at Real Madrid, including 2 Champions Leagues, 2 World Cups. Strongly linked to the Brazil national team job in recent years, and now he is staying at the Bernabeu. How it was brought about this morning by our friends at Real Madrid. Agreed to extend our coach's contract until June 30, 2026. In his 5 seasons, 10 titles, 2 Champions Leagues, 2 Club World Cups, 2 European Super Cups, 1 league, 2 Copas del Rey. Love the fact that they properly pluralized it. And 1 Spanish Super Cup. Carlo Ancelotti is the only coach to have won 4 European Cups and the one to have achieved the most victories in the history of this competition, 118. Also the first coach to win the 5 major European leagues, Italy, England, France, Germany, Spain. That's it. Literally, it's like 3 sentences is their official statement. But, that's kind of like all you need, really. Carlo Ancelotti stays. Now, and this is the discussion we're getting into here with Ricky and Rich. Rich, Ancelotti going to Brazil never made sense anyway. And then Ricky in the back and forth, he coached prominent members of the team, so it made some sense. But Ricky with the larger question, what does Brazil do now? They got issues. They do got issues. We have seen on the field the last time out in CONMEBOL qualifying with Denise on the touchline. It's a hard watch. It is a hard watch. Looking at their style of play. I mean, we are so used to Yogo Bonito. And by accident this morning, I have one of my Pele shirts on. But, you got a lower third up, folks can't see it. See, there you go. So I have one of my Pele shirts on this morning. And it's been a difficult watch. It has been hard. It has been a difficult watch. They are not the team that we're used to seeing stylistically. They're not the team that we're used to seeing. Talent in net with Allison and Ederson. Renan Lodi, Magalhaes, Marquinhos, Nino. Defensively, midfield, Guimarães, Douglas Luiz. Vega, forwards, Aquino, Gabriel Jesus, Joelinton, Vinicius Jr., Martinelli, Paulinho, João Pedro, Rafinha, Rodrigo. And that roster, I mean, it's just an awful watch. You don't, they want to do things more physically. They want to drag it down. They want to muck it up. And for Brazil to be a club that instead of playing this free-flowing style of the game, right now, Brazil is in 6th in CONMEBOL. Right now, Brazil is in 6th. 6th place. 6 matches, 8 goals scored, 7 allowed. And after the last go-round, they dropped to 6th place. Argentina, Uruguay, which has been a fantastic story. Colombia, Vamos Venezuela, Ecuador, and then Brazil. And Paraguay and Chile are just 2 points behind them in 7th and 8th. 7th and 8th. We're talking about a Brazil side right now who is in 6th place in CONMEBOL. Two wins, 1 draw, 3 losses, 8 goals scored, 7 allowed. This is not the Brazil side that we are used to seeing under any circumstance. But now, what do you do? Yeah, Ricky, Yogo Bonito is far, far away. I mean, it is literally just clog up the midfield, be physical about, knock dudes over. This is a game with which I am unfamiliar with Brazil. How much longer do you stick with Diniz? Would be the next question. Are you happy with what you're seeing? If you are the federation, you're obviously not. But what do you do? What do you do if you're Brazil right now? What do you do? The guy that you had pinned your hopes on, and I mean you had thrown everything behind it. You had thrown everything behind the idea of bringing in Carlo Ancelotti. And now you ain't. Now what? That, to me, is a larger question when it comes to Brazil, other than being in 6th right now in CONMEBOL qualifying. You're in 6th. You were kind of just hanging out in the pool, waiting for something to go down. And the guy that you had linked your hopes to stays at Real Madrid. I mean, you're going to have to, if you're Brazil, you are going to have to back up the truck to somebody. You are going to have to back up the Brinks truck. All right, so let's take a peek at perhaps guys that might take the place. I mean, Diniz right now. So Tite went for a little over 6 years. 60, 15, and 6. Ramon Menezes came in as a caretaker for 3 matches, was 1-0-2. He was the manager. He's the manager of the U20s. It was friendlies. Then it was 1-0-2. July 4th, Diniz comes in. He's listed as the interim. Came in on July 4th. 4 matches, 2 wins, a loss, and a draw. But now what do you do? This is the larger question now. And there's only so many times you can say it, but you're like, now what? I mean, this is July 4th. July 4th from the Associated Press. Here was how it was worded when they brought Diniz in on a 12-month contract due to expire when Ancelotti's deal with Real Madrid ends. This is literally from the Associated Press. Executives at the Brazilian Soccer Confederation have indicated the intention is to wait a season, then bring in Ancelotti to lead the team into the 2026 World Cup. Diniz has kept his gig at Fluminense and joined Brazil only for World Cup qualifiers, takes over from Menezes, once again, who had the friendlies. Diniz, who in recent years has been praised by Brazil stars, including Neymar and Thiago Silva. He was going to be introduced at the press conference at the time. Brazilian Soccer Confederation said in a statement, this is back July 4th, remember. Negotiations to hire Diniz were silent and careful, so it did not interfere with his work at Fluminense, renowned for a strategy that utilizes attacking teams that enjoy ball possession and building its game from the back. How much of that have we seen with Diniz in charge? Ednaldo Rodriguez, the chairman of the Fed, told TV Globo Diniz, a favorite among players, will step in until Ancelotti joins. Real Madrid coach has not confirmed any deal with Brazil. Diniz's game plan is almost similar to that of the coach that will take over at Copa America, Ancelotti, Rodriguez said. We don't call him an interim coach of the national team. He will come and make the transition in Brazil for Ancelotti, end quote. Diniz is going to coach for the World Cup qualifiers. So now what do? You threw, Ednaldo Rodriguez, chairman of the Brazilian Soccer Confederation, you threw everything you had at the level of confidence that you had attached to bringing in Carlo Ancelotti. That ain't happening. So now, once again, you're going to have to back up the Brinks truck to try to find somebody to manage a team that has a style that is muck it up, grind it up, and be in the middle third and not do a whole lot. Maybe try to get something in transition. Be physical, throw folks down, stop the rushes. And to have those conversations and those predicate nouns involved with Brazil is just weird. But now who do you get? It's gonna be one of those things. Who do you get? You threw everything you had when you hired Diniz as your interim. He's going to be here until Ancelotti gets here. Now what? Now what do? It will be one of the most intriguing questions in international football. Now what's your pursuit going to look like? Bart and D. Graham are saying, hire Greg Berhalter. I'm not surprised. Bart also is asking, has anyone ever added toppings to a Pop-Tart? Heard of people adding whipped cream? That to me means that you're not happy with the Pop-Tart that you purchased in the first place and that you wanted to add something to it. So, as Ricky says, it's unnecessary. Rich, the 98-02 Brazil squad is what got him into soccer. The flash was developed out of the players in order to get more direct and defensive. D. Graham. Ricky to D. Graham. I want to explore the alternate universe where he is at Club America. Yeah, and Emilio, good Italian, never going to help a Brazilian. Emilio, but Frank seems to be living a good life right now. Frank seems to be happy with what he's up to. You know, doing the occasional guest spot on the video medium. You know, being told to drive a truck down a hillside, being chased by a villain in a TV series. For those of you that follow Frank on the Instagram and the IG, yeah, there was a picture taken at a beach in the Middle East over the holiday. So I think he's kind of chilling. Right now. So we'll see. But yeah, Brazil is in a world of hurt internationally. The other news internationally with coaches, David Moyes apparently, after all of this talk, is staying. Board backed him on the run to Europe, close to confirming a new 2.5-year deal. Jason Burt from our friends at the Telegraph. They're going to hold talks with Moyes over a new contract in January. Moyes alluded to it after the win yesterday. Bart, that West Ham had. And expected a 2.5-year deal offered and signed, which will extend him until June of 2026. Sources maintain it's not yet a done deal that Moyes will agree to stay, but the intention is to discuss a new contract, and all parties are happy with the time scale. Nevertheless, the key issue with Moyes, it's understood, remains the lack of support it's felt he has received from West Ham fans, some West Ham fans who've been hypercritical. The team initially had intended to wait until the end of the season to review his position, as they usually do. There had even been strong suggestions that he was not going to be renewed. Still remains to be seen with whether Moyes can agree to terms with the club. Indications he's keen to stay. He's maintained a good relationship with the club board, who've been relaxed over Moyes' future. Close to being sacked last season, may have left in the summer if he hadn't won Europa Conference League. First club trophy in 43 years, which qualified them for Europa. There was a match against Fulham last year where they're thinking, okay, if he doesn't win this one, he's probably out. They beat Slaven Bilic. They'd lined up Slaven Bilic to take over, but Moyes beat Fulham 1-0 and got to stay. So it's like every single time, he's almost like the soccer version of Gus Malzahn. Every single time, David Moyes is close. David Moyes is close to getting fired. David Moyes is close to getting fired. He gets that win. He always gets the win at the 11th hour. Ricky with a question. Could they hire Mourinho? Somewhat looking and laughing at the same time. Jose seems to be happy in Serie A. That could change with the rules that we will be going over in hour number 2 that are changing. Or that they are looking to change. But Mourinho, by all indications, is very, very happy in Serie A. We'll see if that, in fact, continues. Moyes returned to West Ham 4 years ago this week. Got them out of relegation, taking them to Europe for 3 years in a row. Fans not happy with the style of play, whether or not he was getting enough out of the squad. The early exit, the recent exit in the Gummy Bear Cup to Liverpool added to it. But you lost to Liverpool. I don't think that's enough to sit there and be all bent out of shape. You lost to Liverpool. Yes, I know it was in the Gummy Bear Cup, but you still lost to Liverpool. Liverpool right now, last time I checked, top of the table in the Prem. West Ham's up to 6th in the Prem, by the way. Finished the calendar year. Wins over Arsenal, Spurs, Manchester United. First time that West Ham has beaten Tottenham and Arsenal away from home in the same league season since 93-94. Signing Kudus, Alvarez, and James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse has been a find. Getting him and keeping him away from other places and other teams that were interested after Southampton got relegated. Sell Declan Rice for 105. You bring in Kudus, Alvarez, and James Ward-Prowse. Moyes had previously suggested that speculation over his future might have unsettled his squad. Asked about the contract situation after the 2-0 win over Arsenal. Sorry, Bart. Back yesterday, he said there's plenty of time to talk about that. We're not in any great rush. We can get that done when we're ready. I'm enjoying my time, end quote. So it looks like David Moyes is staying at West Ham. Erik ten Hag is convinced, according to James Ducker, he is convinced that he has Sir Jim Ratcliffe's backing. Convinced. Ten Hag, according to Ducker, Ten Hag is convinced. That's the verb being used. Convinced that Ineos wants him to remain as Manchester United manager despite having yet to hold talks with the incoming minority shareholders. Ineos gets complete control under the term of football operations under the terms of the deal. 29% stake in the club, up from 25%, subject to regulatory approval. Ten Hag is expecting to finally have discussions with Ratcliffe, now that they would actually amount to something, and his team next month. But the United manager says he's certain Ineos, quote, wants to work with me. The schedule is so condensed, So I didn't have the time so far to speak with them, but it will come, and I look forward to it. They want to work with me. I want to work with them, and we will have the conversations and the meetings. We will see, end quote. Sir Dave Brailsford was at Old Trafford to see the comeback win over Aston Villa. Sir Dave and Jean-Claude Blanc, the former Juve CEO, who currently holds the same role with Ineos, are due to spend time at Carrington, the headquarters, scrutinizing operations. Those are Ducker's words. Scrutinizing operations over the coming weeks ahead of joining the football club board. Ten Hag has been focused on the game in this moment. I don't want to have distractions, but in the coming days, weeks, there'll be time for this, meaning the talks, and then I'll know more. They get Forest at City Ground on Saturday. We'll go over juice boxes and Prem and Proper in a bit. That's the other program that will be up later today. We always want to win. It doesn't matter who's in charge. Appointed here to win. So in this area, we need a winning culture, no matter who is in the lead, no matter who is the owner. But, of course, the owners can inspire you. Andre Onana thought to be keen to delay joining with Cameroon for AFCON next month so he can play for United in their third-round tie in the FA Cup against Wigan on January 8th, okay? Sure. Ten Hag said United were in discussions with the Cameroonian Football Federation over his first-choice keeper. Also expects to have defenders Lisandro Martinez, Tiro Malacia, Harry Maguire, Casemiro, Mason Mount back by the middle of next month. Mid-January, they expect Mason, Casemiro, Martinez, Malacia, Harry Maguire, of course. So, Eric Ten Hag is confident. Ange Postecoglou has handed Daniel Levy a January shopping list of a defender, a winger, and a midfielder. Good luck. Because we all know about Daniel Levy and expenses. We'll see what happens there. We'll get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo coming up in just a little bit. Liverpool have ruled out January panic buys, despite the injuries to Andy Robertson and Kostas Tsimikas. But this doesn't mean for a double negative that they're not looking. They're going to kick the tires on some folks, and we'll see if Liverpool makes a tweak here or a tweak there as we get to Monday and the beginning of the window. Did you see this? Jack Grealish, his property was burgled, and you know that you're reading an English newspaper when you see that verb. See, I use that verb. Instead of burglarized, I say burgled. Thieves stole £1 million worth of watches and jewelry Wednesday night. And apparently there's video that shows the moment that Grealish was told about it. So Jack Grealish plays 90 minutes against Everton while his mansion was being targeted. Footage from Amazon Prime shows Grealish in a conversation with the head of support, Manel Estiarte, after the 3-1 win. Estiarte normally does not go on the field. Stands by the tunnel. Estiarte taps Grealish on the shoulder, pulls him away, and it's like, dude, we need to talk. I need to tell you something. Then he left the pitch for the dressing room. A panic button was pushed, and an emergency unit responded with a police helicopter also deployed. Caller reported a number of items had been stolen, according to Cheshire Police. Officers, police dogs, National Police Air Service deployed. Searches conducted in the local area, but there was no trace of suspects. No arrests made at the time. Inquiries ongoing. Latest incidents likely to lead to a review of security among players and their homes. The 3-word paper reported that a gang took watches and jewelry worth £1 million. Family members in the property were terrified after hearing people enter the home. Raheem Sterling flew home from the World Cup last year after his home was broken into. Dele Alli was assaulted by a gang who entered his house. Joao Cancelo assaulted during an attack just after Christmas in 2021. And according to Mike McGrath at The Telegraph, security experts fear a footballer will eventually be a victim of a violent attack similar to George Harrison's stabbing unless they start taking personal protection more seriously. 1999, Harrison was attacked by an intruder at his home. So you got to keep your head on a swivel for all those kinds of things. Jack Grealish, the next to be added in line. Yesterday in the Premier League, you had the Thomas Souček goal against Arsenal that caused another, how do we phrase this? Another reason that folks were screaming about why VAR should not be involved in the Premier League. So Souček's goal gives West Ham a lead, but once again, you get the debate about VAR. For those of you that might remember, Anthony Gordon's goal against Arsenal early this year for Newcastle questioned whether the ball went out of play in the run-up. Did the ball leave the field of play just wide of the net before Jared Bowen cuts it back for Souček to score? Lengthy delay. Decided that there wasn't enough evidence to suggest that the ball had fully crossed the line. Bowen's body was out of play. Not clear whether the ball had joined him. And they're saying that there are similarities with the Anthony Gordon incident. You'll remember, once again, not enough camera angles attached. And this is really one of the underlying ideas involving VAR. Camera angles, and I would maintain that if you're going to have cameras and VAR, and once again you end up with facilities that are different. Camera wells have to be in different places. We know this. Then you have the Cyclops technology, for lack of a better phrase, to find out whether or not the ball goes completely over the goal line. It might be to the point to where you have to add Cyclops to the end line as well. Bart, it's cool. Apparently no ball is ever out of play against Arsenal. In the Gordon incident, the referees needed to find conclusive evidence, and they could not. The PL's independent key match incidents panel later ruled the goal was correctly allowed to stand. Arteta, after Newcastle, that was when he went off. Called it a disgrace, charged by the FA, later cleared because of the words that were used and the context with which they were in. Remember, Arteta used certain phraseology, and what he said was not what was reported to be said. Mark Clattenburg thought the ball remained in play based on the angles that had been shown to viewers. Once again, that's the key. That's the key here. Camera angles that had been shown to viewers. And I imagine that these are also the same that were shown in the booth. But once again, not every stadium looks like, as we got into the discussion with Bart earlier this week, not every stadium is Three Rivers, Riverfront, Fulton County. It is not the circular cookie cutter, especially in the Premier League. Things are different. And so once again, based on the camera angles, according to Clattenburg, based on the camera angles that had been shown to viewers. And that's the key here. Clattenburg, we cannot be 100% certain the ball has gone out. You look at other precedents. Everybody looked at Japan and Spain and the World Cup with Kaoru Mitoma. and the winner, all that kind of stuff. And then once again, remember, it's circular. The ball is not a defined shape. So we'll look at that. Keep an eye on that going forward, but once again, you end up with yet another moment where folks are wondering about VAR. Folks are also wondering about Roy Hodgson and his Palace future. We talked about Steve Cooper being available. Cooper's out there. They're mad enough at Hodgson. Cooper's available for free. Evangelinas Marinakis apparently has no tether to Steve Cooper anymore. So Steve Cooper could jump right in at Crystal Palace. And I think the fans would dig that. So that's where we are with what happened in the Prem yesterday. Brighton and Spurs took the over. 6-goal thriller. West Ham shuts out Arsenal 2-0. Brighton beat Spurs at a plus 154, at a plus 152 4-2. So just for issues and giggles, let's take a look. 6 goals on the board. If you had 5.5 as your over-under in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, you were there at a plus 580. If you had 6 on the nose, you're at a plus 1350. You did well for yourself yesterday in the juice boxes with Brighton and Tottenham. Nothing going on today. 6 matches on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, 1 on Monday, 1 on Tuesday. And then they take the January break. A lot of folks are going to need it. Luton and Chelsea. Chelsea on the road at Kenilworth Road. That's the early game on Saturday. Chelsea's a minus 185. Villa and Burnley, part of the 4 matches at 10 o'clock. Villa's a minus 263 at home. Palace favored at a plus 123. Brentford's lost 6 of 7. They're a plus 247. Manchester City a minus 1250. Looks like they'll be without Erling Haaland again. They're hoping to have him back early in January, which would mean probably the 13th. Manchester City a minus 1250 with Sheffield United visiting at a plus 2725. Wolves, slight favorite at the Molineux, hosting Everton at a plus 166. Everton is a plus 175. Forest hosting Manchester United is a plus 225. Manchester United is a plus 118. 2 games on New Year's Eve day. Fulham at a plus 480, hosting Arsenal at a minus 172. Bournemouth at a plus 296 goes to Spurs, who are a minus 123. Take the over. New Year's Day, Liverpool, Newcastle. Liverpool's a minus 217 visiting Newcastle, and we imagine that this is the healthy side. If they can put 11 healthy players together, Newcastle's a plus 574. And then that'll take us to Tuesday at 2:30. West Ham and Brighton. West Ham favored at a plus 147. Brighton's a plus 175 on the road. Then they get the international break. Once again, prim and proper later today. Other stuff, since we're over on that side of the planet. We'd mentioned that City closing in on the deal for Echeverry at River Plate. Besiktas and Trabzonspor have joined the race to sign Cedric Suarez in January, according to the Evening Standard. The 2 Turkish league clubs have sounded out the defender's agent. Sky says that he is, the 32-year-old, increasingly seen as surplus. Contract expires in the summer, open now to moving on. Having failed to convince Mikel Arteta he has a future, Arsenal may demand a fee, but the priority is getting his £120,000 a week wage off the books. Ange Postecoglou, once again, according to the Telegraph, trying to get his business done as quickly as possible. Nice, hopeful of hanging on to Jean-Claude Todibo. Spurs are expected to step up their interest in Genoa's Radu Dragusin. Genoa have claimed that Dragusin will sign a new deal, but that has not put off Spurs. Sources in Italy claiming they're ahead of Roma, AC Milan, and Atalanta to sign the Romanian international. Most likely winger for Spurs is Jota, who played for Postecoglou at Celtic and is reported to want to leave Al Ittihad. Postecoglou's hopes of landing an 8, or can he sell Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who's attracted interest from Juve? They've showed interest in Conor Gallagher, but once again, that's 45 to 50 million pounds. Unai Emery, when asked if he's going to be active in the transfer market, kind of played it coy. I'm happy. Maybe we can change something, but not 100%. Thomas Frank says he doesn't want to sell Ivan Toney because he knows he needs Ivan Toney. To get Ivan back will be like signing an unbelievably good Premier League striker that's proven in the Premier League. Looking forward to it. I really, really would like to keep him. Ivan is a Brentford player, no bids. I want to keep him, and he's looking forward to playing for us. Victor Osimhen has responded to a plea from a Chelsea supporter to come home and rescue the club. Signed a new deal with Napoli this month that keeps him at the club until 2026. Release clause on 120 million euro. Hey, Todd Bowley. And keep an eye on that. Other moments with VAR. Arteta, VAR not being clear is a shame, but we had enough to win. That was the quote from Mikel Arteta yesterday after the loss to West Ham. And Ange Postecoglou bemoaned a VAR decision not to send off Lewis Dunk. Probably we'll talk about this in reffing down here and VAR on Tuesday with Bart. Michael, CFC need to keep Conor Gallagher. They do. But you know shiny objects, Todd Bowley, Clear Lake, and spending over $1 billion. You mentioned it yourself with one of the things that you'll remember about 2023, about how a team can spend over $1 billion and still be mid-table. A lot of folks are saying that Arsenal's January window is more important than ever. So we will see if that is in fact the case. Going through the papers, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter paper as we traditionally do. Daily Mirror, agents are bracing themselves for a different January window. Manchester United, Newcastle, Arsenal potentially looking at loan deals as a priority. Andre Onana reportedly in talks with Cameroon to delay the release for AFCON. Getafe president Angel Torres has confirmed he's held talks with Manchester United over a permanent move for Mason Greenwood. From The Guardian, a British South Asian man is suing Liverpool, claiming it racially discriminated against him by rejecting his application for a job in favor of someone less experienced. From The Athletic, Arsenal are interested in Bayern Munich defender Matthijs de Ligt. Burnley striker Lyle Foster left out of South Africa's squad for AFCON as he continues to receive treatment for his mental health. Bernd Leno unlikely to face any action from the Football Association following his clash with the ball boy that we talked about back at the Bournemouth match. Dirk Kuyt has been named the new head coach of Belgian second-tier side Beerschot, one of the best names ever. Nuno has been reunited with 4 familiar staff members at Forest: Rui Pedro Silva, Julio Figueroa as assistants, Rui Barbosa, Antonio Diaz arriving as keeper, coach, and fitness coach. Daily Record, Guangzhou FC's Ho Jeong has claimed a move to Europe is getting closer, with Celtic leading the race to snap him up. Rangers shareholders group Club 1872 have ended their long-running disagreement with the club board. Tom, you've got a question. I will see if I can answer it. Tom is trying to find the calendar and when you can actually sit there and put names to paper. Forgot to mention about Damir Kreilach, too. Damir Kreilach parting ways with RSL after 6 seasons. One of the best Bond villains ever, Damir Kreilach. Gadi Kinda has departed Sporting Kansas City, heading to Maccabi Haifa. Kenda was sent a bona fide offer even though he was out of contract. Polito, Tommy, and Kenda were the DPs last year for Sporting. Cruz signed Marino Inestroza from Pachuca. NYCFC signed 15-year-old homegrown forward Zidane Yanez. Say that 10 times fast. 15-year-old homegrown forward Zidane Yanez. Austin FC, big move here, signing a great number 2 in Stephen Cleveland to back up Brad Stuver. Minnesota United loaning Ethan Bristow to Stockport County. And keep an eye on all of that. So we need the league report. I'm going to figure out what the January window, because I want to get the wording correct about when you can do things. Transfer windows in the 23 season, just to give you a bit of a base, January 31st to April 24th. But let's see if we can figure out what they are here for 24. I think you can, as soon as we turn January, I'm fairly certain and safe that you can start signing players and figure out what your desires are. If there are players that were not, if they weren't attached to any particular, like if they're out of contract or something, like you're seeing right now with Gotti Kenda going outbound, with those kinds of things. So with the transfer window, like I said, I'm still trying to figure out. It's like no one's giving you dates. You got rumor mills and all this kind of stuff, but no one's giving you any kind of a date. Fixture release, calendar, soccer transfers, schedule, harumph. Morning, Alex. But I'm fairly certain that once you turn in January, the January window itself is a little later. But if you've got folks out of contract, I can't see why you can't make announcements for like a double negative here. And I know this is making for riveting conversation. Wow, somebody calling me from Clarkston that I don't know. Let's see. Premier League window, MLS transfer window remains open until April. MLS transfer window is open until April. So technically open now. According to our friends at the Four Letter, transfer window remains open until April, with the 24 season starting February 22nd. So that's where we are. So in theory, what you're staring at is that. Ladero to Orlando, Alex Pacine. As I'm sitting here trying to dig up information on other stuff. What did I do with my... Do I not have it up? I guess I don't have it up. That's kind of disappointing. Sit there and you're trying to look at something in other elements. But yeah, Nico Ladero, I think he had posted that he started following folks on the 280 on the Insta, and they were all tied to Inter Miami and Messi and friends. According to Jaime Ojeda and to Tommy Scoops. So I guess this is, we'll go ahead and hit it one more time here. Thank you, Alex. I'm about 15 seconds behind you. But, we'll go ahead and hit it. We'll go ahead and hit it and see what's going on. So Tommy Scoops, among others, Orlando City finalizing a deal to sign Nico Ladero per sources. 34-year-old won 2 MLS Cups, led Seattle to be the first MLS team to win the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. 60 caps with Uruguay. He was on a free. Finalizing the deal. 2 MLS Cups in 16 and 19. Won Champions Cup in 22. 231 appearances for the Sounders, 58 goals, 62 assists. Unique in having one of the highest work rates at his position, and like a typical 10, according to Tommy Scoops, Ladero slots into the attack with Facundo Torres, Marin Ojeda, and Duncan McGuire. Ladero's deal will be below the max TAM threshold, meaning he won't occupy a DP slot. 2 senior DPs in Torres and Ojeda, meaning their third DP either needs to be a young DP under the age of 23 or a restricted DP, someone like Ladero under that max TAM threshold. Sources say Ladero is not expected to hold the final DP slot. We have not talked about Hugo Lloris. We're going to get into that next since we're here in Major League Soccer. MLS teams allowed 3 DPs, but to use all 3 U22 initiative slots, teams cannot use all 3 DP spots on senior DPs. That makes any sense. We'll read it again. Allowed 3 DPs, but to use all 3 U22 initiative slots, teams can't use all 3 DP spots on senior DPs. Orlando currently has 3 U22s, Cesar Arujo, Gaston Gonzalez, and Ramiro Enrique. So, Nico Ladero finalizing to go to the purple team. Keep an eye on that. So it looks like that's going to be pretty much posted in place. Yesterday, it was brought forth in various and sundry places that Hugo Lloris might be heading to LAFC, which is another batch of interesting. So you've got Maxime Crépeau, and now apparently you're thinking of adding Hugo Lloris. We'll look at the salary structures coming up in just a bit. Right, D. Graham, January 1st for EPL Bundesliga, January 2 Serie A, La Liga, and Ligue 1. So right now apparently MLS is open until April. So it's pretty much free and clear. But because of, we talked about it yesterday with folks like Joseph Martinez, technically you're still under contract until the last day of the calendar year. Even if you're not getting a bona fide offer, even if you are not in the team's plans, you are still under contract to the end of the calendar year. So that, to me, is why you're not seeing announcements one way or the other about teams. And when we come back on Tuesday, we will see all of those announcements, or we'll start to see them trickle out, because you're still under contract till December, 30 days, says September, April, June, December 31st. That's why. But Hugo Lloris has been now linked to LAFC, which is interesting. Fabrizio Romano earlier this morning, LAFC are confident to get Hugo Lloris's deal done and sealed very soon, as they had the green light from Spurs. Postecoglou, when asked about Lloris, quote, "I'm sure we'll hear something in the next couple of days." So Ange Postecoglou, confident about news about an exited Hugo Lloris. L'Équipe backing it up. So you have Hugo Lloris possibly being added, almost reaching an agreement, however you wish to phrase it, advanced talks, closing in on a move. All of the right adjectives are there. 11 and a half years he's been with Spurs. David Heitner at The Guardian yesterday. Captain for the previous 8 years, 447 appearances in all comps. Negotiations with LAFC in the final stages, feeling Spurs that the deal's close to being confirmed. Winter transfer window in England opens on Monday. So, outbounds, think about Monday. If something is to be laid out, if they're going to dot the I's and cross the T's, start looking at Hugo Lloris on Monday. So Hugo Lloris, and we'll look at this in a couple of different ways. We'll look at this. Does Hugo Lloris, does he come in as a designated player, or is he high TAM? We've known LAFC in the past to sit there and say, okay, we'll bring in folks and we know how to make this stuff work. Salaries for LAFC. Kellen Acosta, $1.25 million. This is base. Denny Buwanga, over $2 million base, with compensation almost $2.5 million. Chiellini made $1 million. That's off the books. Crepeau makes $350. As a bit of a comparison. So that's 3 players. Mario Gonzalez, $888.5, so he's close. That's high TAM. Aaron Long, $1.2 million. Christian Oliveira at $650. Diego Chiqui Palacios at $540. Ilie's $1,207,500. Carlos Vela at 3. So they have 6 players. And by the way, Carlos Vela, $3 million base with compensation, 4.3, almost 4.4. 6 players that make over $1 million a year. And Crepeau, as one of your keepers, right now is at 350 base, 377.5 when it comes to his full compensation package. So let's look at LAFC and let's take a peek at their roster and see where things are when it comes to salaries and figures and all of this kind of thing. So let's see what we can play with here. Crepeau is out of contract at the end of the calendar year. There are a lot of folks, well, and it might be Messi and Friends bookkeeping, Bart. We'll keep an eye on it. But at the end of the year, they have like 98 players who are out of contract. This is the end of the calendar year for LAFC. Contract expires December 31st, 2023. So in 2 days, Jakupovic, Chiellini, Vela, Crepeau, Kellen Acosta, John McCarthy. So you're losing 3 keepers whose contracts end in 2 days. Deno Maldonado, Chiqui Palacios, Julian Gaines, Danny Crisostomo, who is joining the Tampa Bay Rowdies, Tony Leone, Christian Torres, Mohamed Traore, Diego Rosales. That is all gone. That is all off the books in 2 days. So that's how many players are we talking here? 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 players off the books. Most of them low contract. But you've got in there a Chiellini who's announced he's done at 39. Carlos Vela, who's trying to find a new home. Does he come back? Crepeau, Kellen Acosta, Open Cup hero penalty kick hero John McCarthy, Chiqui Palacios, Torres, Traore, Rosales. 14 players whose contracts end in 2 days, including 3 goalkeepers. So seeing that exit, well, I mean, Emilio says LAFC never came across as cheating when you look at Messi and Friends. It was creative. Bringing in Bale, bringing in Chiellini, all of the European firepower that they brought in for their rush for an MLS Cup. Everybody was like, oh, really? Okay. Creative, but not as out there as Messi and Friends. So bringing in Lloris, because you need 3 keepers at the moment, in 2 days you will. Jakupovic, Crepeau, McCarthy, all gone. All out of contract in 2 days. 2024, not as many. Krastev, Ilya, Palencia, Aaron Long, Murillo, Abraham Romero. Your one keeper that is apparently on the books. Eddie Segura, Duenas. Buanga is 2 years left on his deal. End of the year 2025. But 14 players out of contract for LAFC. 3 of them keepers. You only have one keeper on the books right now. Abraham Romero, the 25-year-old, who had time with Vegas Lights in USL Championship. So that lends itself to the Hugo Lloris conversation. You're losing 3. You got to bring in somebody. Absolutely, Emilio, and this is 100% correct, Emilio. Creative isn't cheating the rules. Correct. Absolutely true. I know a lot of folks looked at LAFC when they brought in Bale and Chiellini, and they were like, yeah, okay. So it might be to the extent that we're looking at other folks. I think that's what we're looking at here. To the sheer bulk that we're seeing with Messi and friends compared to what we saw with LAFC as they were making their push. Hey, we're bringing in Gareth Bale. Oh, okay. I can see how you're going to do that. So, Lloris looking for a home. He ain't playing. Don't know what the connections were to bring him over to this side of the Atlantic. Niall with a question. He doesn't know how LAFC replaces Buanga if he leaves, which I think he wants to leave. And they get 2 years to figure it out because remember, as we always say, contract length is about controlling the asset. They've got 2 years left. Do not be surprised if at the end of next season, LAFC tries to, they will be open to listening for anything involving Denny Buanga. You'll have a year left on the deal, and you get to figure it out from there what you want to do when it comes to all of the folks in line. End of next year is when we look at Denny Buanga and go, okay, who's interested and who's going to back up the truck for LAFC? And then who do they find in turn? And as Jim Rome said, Emilio, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, and it's only cheating if you get caught. So Crepeau out, Jakupovic out, McCarthy out, Lloris in. Possibly, but once again, we still have to wait 2 days for the window to open up overseas before any kind of an announcement can be made to bring folks over this way. Lloris at 37 looking for a home. He's looking for quality minutes. He goes to Lipstick City. He gets to wear the sunglasses. He gets to style and profile, and we'll see what happens. But it's because they're out 3 keepers in 2 days' time. And they were chasing, and they've apparently found Hugo Lloris, so we'll keep an eye on that one as well. More soccer over there. Now, this is something that I wanted to get into this morning, and it has to do with what's going on over in Italy. And I admit that what we will be doing is we will be taking it from a news perspective. There are two separate ideas out there that need to be talked about. And Brandon Vasquez is being toured, and Brentford, I think, came up as a possibility, I want to say a week ago, and he would be a cheap alternative to any other folks, especially if you wanted to do something internally. Remember that we are looking at the idea of Brentford with Ivan Toney coming back in January, but would Brandon Vasquez work in a Thomas Frank system? That to me is the larger question here. And that's the larger thought. If there is interest by Brentford and Thomas Frank, would Brandon Vasquez fit into what Thomas Frank wants to do? As we mentioned earlier in the show, Thomas Frank said that Ivan Toney's not for sale. Good luck on that. At the same time, you say these things, but once again, it's about controlling the asset. We've talked about controlling the asset before with Ivan Toney, with anybody. Mykhailo Mudryk at Chelsea signed to a long-term deal, signed to an 8-year contract. Why? To control the asset. Denny Bouanga signed to the deal that he has. He's got another 2 years. But once again, it's about controlling the asset. You make sure that you can maximize what you get in return for these individuals. That's what you're looking at. Control the asset with the length of the deal. But Brandon Vasquez to Brentford, it was talked about last week whether or not that has picked up steam or not. And once again, we will always continue to remind you. Yeah, 2 weeks ago when Brentford interest came along, Monterrey was the other team that was looked at in these situations with Brandon Vasquez. Monterrey and Brentford. I would think that Monterrey might be a better fit for Brandon Vasquez. But once again, it was Borussia Mönchengladbach. It was Brentford. It was Monterrey. Chivas. So there's plenty of places that are allegedly, possibly, probably, apparently interested in Brandon Vasquez. But it is all about the fit. Would he fit in those situations? I don't know if Brandon Vasquez would fit overseas. Oh, I know, to play in the Premier League. But once again, do you go someplace? And there's apparently also talk, speaking of playing in the Premier League, we mentioned the Liverpool injuries earlier with Robertson and Tsimikas, and it looks like they might be kicking the tires on Jedi Robinson over at Fulham. But the idea that, it's the Premier League, do you go to the Premier League and sit? I mean, which is what I think he would be doing. I think if Brandon Vasquez went to Brentford with Ivan Toney coming back, I legitimately don't know what kind of minutes he would be getting. He certainly would sure as hell have to earn them. So if we look at the lineup that Brentford had last time out, if we look at that lineup, and go back and see, okay, so if we look at the lineup, Rorslev, Collins, Pinnock, Godos, Norgard, Yamoliuk, Janelt, Vissa, Lewis Potter, and Neil Mopay the captain. Because you don't have Mbumo, who is out right now. So there could be a chance there. And if you look at that lineup that went out last time against Wolves and got pounded, they are certainly lacking in offensive firepower. Vasquez would have the opportunity, if he went, to get minutes until Mbumo came back to help out up top. And then with Ivan Toney coming back, what does Thomas Frank do philosophically if you bring him over? But once again, I had heard that the conversations with the Liga MX sides, specifically Monterrey, were further along. And we will continue to remind you this time of year, Check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. Check your numbers, check the number of followers. Check everything out these days. And, as the way that things have laid themselves out and the way they always do when it comes to transfer windows, check your sources, check your numbers, check the number of followers, check their histories. Like when we were discussing Sleaze yesterday, Ladarchik had over 136,000 followers on the 280-character app. That, I figure, is a tier 1 source in Poland. Check your sources in all of these situations. And make sure that it's not just some dude that's got like 500 followers and has misspelled a name of someone who's tight, like Cesar Luis Merlo with a Z or Merlo with a T at the end. Check your names, check your sources in these situations. So keep an eye on Brandon Vasquez. Silly season once again opening up on Monday. We'll talk about it all January long. We will have all of the rumors, all the talk, all the stuff. Now, Italy. Or do we want to do gossip, rumor, and innuendo? Let's do the BBC's version of gossip, rumor, and innuendo and what to watch before we get into Italy. Because, like I said, it's a bit long and involved, but it's important, especially economically. Arsenal interested in Matthijs de Ligt. Any deal is likely to take place in the summer. Ivan Toney's Arsenal's main target, but the Gunners could fall short in their bid because of the recent run of poor form. 3-letter paper. We mentioned Roy Hodgson and his future. Apparently, Hodgson is aware his job will be on the line when Crystal Palace face Brentford on Saturday. Bobby Firmino could leave Al Ahly after only 6 months, with Al Shabab, Al Ettifaq, and Al Fateh, Sheffield United, and teams from Turkey all interested. Serhou Guirassy, we've talked about him, ready to leave Stuttgart in January. AC Milan, Manchester United, Spurs interested. Liverpool set to send Nat Phillips on loan again in January after his spell at Celtic ended. Crystal Palace, keen on Sunderland's midfielder Pierre Ekwa and PSG's 21-year-old striker Hugo Ekitike. I don't think you can afford Ekitike. Good luck on that idea. Forest are also in advanced talks with Monaco over a move for 28-year-old Portuguese winger Gelson Martins. That's from L'Equipe. A swap deal involving Dusan Vlahovic and Romelu Lukaku, who is on loan at Roma, could take place early next year. Dortmund considering a bid for Manchester United's winger Dan Gore. Chelsea have agreed to a deal to sign Senegalese U17 midfielder Pape Daouda Diong from Senegalese club AF Darussalam when he turns 18 in June. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Juve prioritizing the signing of Spurs' 28-year-old midfielder Pierre-Emile Højbjerg in January. Manchester City are going to let Calvin Phillips join Newcastle on loan as he's set to turn down a move from Juve. That's from our friends at TalkSport. Spurs want to sign a center back. Obviously, we talked about Jean-Claire Todibo. And Ange Postecoglou chasing after 3 separate guys. Pressure's increasing on Steven Gerrard at Al Ettifaq. Winless since October. They're winless in their last 9. West Ham willing to sell Naif Aguirre in January. Several Saudi Arabian clubs interested. News on Saudi Arabia from Ben Jacobs in a second. Eintracht Frankfurt want to sign Wolves striker Sasa Kaladzic on loan till the end of the season. Former France midfielder Jan Mvila open to a return to Sunderland. The 33-year-old is a free agent after leaving Olympiacos at the end of last season. Sevilla, Lyon, and Freiburg interested in signing Manchester United's 20-year-old Hannibal Mabry on loan in January. West Ham defender Thilo Kehrer is a target for Roma, who want to sign a center back in January. We mentioned Manchester City and River Plate closing in on a deal for Echeverry. Set to spend some time at sister club Girona before being integrated into Pep's squad, according to our friends at Mundo Deportivo. D. Graham says, salary-wise, Brandon Vasquez even in a salary. Tony's on $1.04 million at the moment compared to what Brandon Vasquez is up to. I wanted to get into the Ben Jacobs story and what Ben Jacobs mentioned earlier this morning having to do with the league that we don't promote, whose games are on, where to watch them, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a reason that we don't. But Ben Jacobs, who is a must-follow on the 280 character at Jacobs Ben, they've agreed, the league that we don't promote or talk about the games and give juice boxes, Saudi Pro League has agreed to a rule change allowing for 25 roster players and an increase on the foreign quota from 8 to 10. Only 8 foreigners can participate in a match, but 10 can be registered from next season. So keep an eye on that as they continue to want to bring in more players, bring in more internationals, and continue to boost their level of play. News on Kylian Mbappe. The renewal could be to stay or to still be sold, but even if Mbappe leaves on a free this summer, understood he has agreed to binding financial commitments, preventing PSG from losing money compared to a sale. This allows the club to be calm from a financial perspective. PSG declined to comment ever since Nasser Al-Khelaifi and Mbappe agreed a way forward. Both club and player solely focused on the season. Always been indicated for some time by sources Mbappe would wait until the second half of the season to make any financial decision on his future. They are not expecting a January exit. They're now under pressure to consider offers. While Mbappe has repeatedly said he wants at a minimum to see the season out in Paris, PSG are covered financially if he leaves on a free, but they are not ruling out a renewal. So keep an eye on the Kylian Mbappe situation. Eddie Howe admits the January window is going to be tricky for Newcastle. Very difficult month, quoting Howe, to bring in quality players. FFP continues to play a part in our decision-making, so let's wait and see what happens. Napoli are interested in Shakhtar midfielder Georgi Sudakov. Scouts have watched him 3 times in the Champions League. Target for either January or the summer. He scored against Barcelona in October. Now, what was going on in Italy happened yesterday, and there's a lot of machinations here, but it needs to be mentioned because of, and there are a couple of things. There are 2 pieces of news, so we'll go back. The FIGC has approved a clause to forbid Italian clubs from the Super League. Good luck on Juve. Clubs will only be allowed to compete in UEFA, FIFA, and FIGC competitions. Should any club join the Super League, they will be excluded from Serie A in 2024 and 25. So there's that piece of news. Then the other piece of news that came from our friends at Italian Football TV. There is a document that is referred to as the growth decree, the Decreto Crescita. And this could be, according to our friends at IFTV, a setback for Serie A. It's being reported that the Italian government will not extend the growth decree, so it will expire in 2 days. So basically, yesterday, the Italian government basically said, you know what? This growth decree, we're good. We're not going to do anything else with it. And at the end of the calendar year, we're just going to let it go. So basically, 3 days notice to Serie A that the growth decree is not going to get any more backing from the Italian government. The Decreto Crescita was introduced by the Italian government back in 2019 to attract foreign professionals. This is wording from IFTV official on the 280 character app. To attract foreign professionals to Italy or Italians that resided abroad for a minimum of 2 years back to Italy in exchange for large tax breaks. gave Italian football clubs the opportunity to sign big-name players and managers that they likely could not have afforded without the tax breaks, see Mourinho, Jose, but also allowed smaller clubs to sign foreign players that they previously would probably have not been able to attract. Players like Ibrahimovic, Lukaku, Pogba, or Di Maria, managers like Mourinho or Conte, would never have been able to join Serie A without the tax break that the Decreto Crescita offered. However, clubs also bought a lot of mediocre foreigners just because they were affordable. Once again, their words. It essentially gave a lifeline to Serie A as it allowed the league to become competitive with the other big leagues in Europe, and the results over the years speak for themselves. AC Milan CEO Giorgio Forlani sees it as a massive setback if it doesn't get extended. Quote, the Decreto Crescita is the one law that helped us in Italy. Getting rid of it is crazy. Football isn't a toy. It's an industry that attracts foreign capital, which the country gets an important return from. Thanks to the Decreto Crescita, we're able to attract talents which had success in Europe. It allowed us to maintain the same level of TV rights and brought infrastructure investments from foreign capital, end quote. Some critics said it hurt the development of Italian youth clubs since it preferred to sign a foreign player instead of an Italian player as it was cheaper. In May of last year, the Decreto Crescita was amended as related to Italian football in that it only applied to players that were at least 20 years old, had a minimum gross salary of €1 million. Without it, while maybe you'll see more Italian players at clubs instead of an average foreign player bought simply for economic reasons, you also will likely not see big-name players from other leagues joining Serie A anymore as the clubs now simply cannot afford it. So keep an eye on Serie A in the next couple days. And the Decreto Crescita apparently might be wandering away. Lazio's president earlier this morning went off on the decisions to get rid of it. He says Serie A will become less competitive, big clubs could be in trouble, and that long-term effects will be seen from this. Quote, and this is Claudio Lotito to Notizie. A great deal of nonsense was decided. You'll see what a damn mistake was made. It won't be good for the state either because they won't get the money they would have gotten. It's better to have a foreign player paying taxes in Italy than to never come here and never pay, no? With this, Serie A loses competitiveness. Last year, we had 3 teams make it in 3 finals. Now I want to see what happens. The real problem is that it could destroy big clubs such as Juve, Milan, and Roma. So keep an eye on what's going on in Italy with the Italian government taking a piece of paper and saying, nah, we're good. Allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe. So we'll see. Tom Russo with a note. The Prem upending Liga MX's most watched here was interesting. I want to know the breakdown of the actual numbers. And I want to know network and probably what you're looking at is Premier League numbers would be, for me, over the air and streaming and minutes, and because I want to know the parameters here. I want to know how it was measured. That for me will be the biggest element of all of this. How was this measured? What are the metrics? And Tom, as someone who has been in the business, you know what you can do is you can sit there and stare at things and go, okay, well, I want this to look at, I want this to be the path that I want, and this is the information that I want laid out. I want to know the warning. And I want to know how it was laid. I want to know the parameters here. I want to know the parameters about how the Premier League upended Liga MX. And Bart's on it. Can't forget that you also have Spanish language broadcasts in the U.S. So the Premier League has, let me see if I've got this right. Premier League has Peacock. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. I appreciate that because I was trying to figure out where it was. You're looking at either Telemundo or Universo, plus NBC, plus USA, plus Peacock. Versus what you're getting from Liga MX, which is to the NA, the specific contract on Telemundo of Chivas, and anybody else. I mean, I think that's, yeah, they are all owned by NBC. Yeah. Then Hutch, that is, yeah, that is that they're all owned by NBC. And so the numbers are going to say what the numbers are going to want to say. They're going to they're going to break it down into streaming and minutes consumed and all these kinds of things. Where Liga MX is to the NA, the Chivas deal specifically with Telemundo, and you have Fox Deportes for Major League Soccer, and then you've got Apple, and so just the NBC, Comcast, Universal, they've just had more firepower. So it's not a surprise, but I want to know how it's measured. I want to see the minutes. I want to see streaming. I want to see all this. I want to see how they gave themselves that designation with all that firepower. So the article, new Nielsen data, TV and streaming Premier League's average for the first time consistently higher than that of their counterpart throughout 2023. Digging through the data, not just a member of the Premier League getting more viewers, nor is it solely based on Liga MX declining in relative viewership. Instead, it's both. Premier League consistently registering new records in viewership, including increased viewership across both NBC and Peacock. Stats analyzed on Liga MX and Premier League viewership on Univision in 22 and 23. Average Univision viewership for the Mexican top flight in 22 was around 900,000. Premier League was just shy of 800,000. 2023, the rankings flipped. Premier League was relatively flat, 700,000. Comparatively, Liga MX plummeted by a third. Liga MX viewership on Univision was down 30%. Viewership of the Apertura decreased 12% compared to 22. Premier League viewership increased by 2% on NBC, 2% on USA. Notably, last year, Liga MX had extremes in both high and low viewership, vastly exceeding the Premier League. Liga MX topped out on one game at Univision at over 1.4 million before 1.3 in 2023. Reasons given. Difficult to pinpoint a specific reason for declining viewership. Liga MX was unable to sell the rights to competitions and to the competition in Mexico. Remember, they didn't have an Apple TV equivalent handler of Leagues Cup. We got that in the States through Apple. There was no carrier in Mexico for Leagues Cup. Streamed behind the paywall for season pass. Liga MX only available on the paid streaming service of ViX. Fans of Liga MX clubs used to watching games for free, so the ViX paywall may have been too much. I'll agree to that too. So if you put games behind a paywall, you go to ViX instead of TUDN occasionally, Fox Deportes occasionally, and the Chivas contract specifically on Telemundo, you're going to have less places to watch. Therefore, it would make sense that the numbers would decrease. And with NBC Universal throwing out everything on every possible way and Apple having MLS in Spanish, then it's all figured out. And Hutch brings back a name of the day, and Carlos Slim. Man, that's a big name to drop. That's a big name to drop today. Wow, Carlos Slim. It's been a while since I heard that one. And even World Soccer Talk got into the discussion of the Decreto Crescita, growth decree. What's it going to mean? Because you got the TV contracts coming up too. You got the TV contract here in the States with Paramount Plus coming up for a renewal. So it will be the interesting there. According to a report from ANSA, the Italian government refused to extend it. Instead of 2.2 million, Serie A clubs would have to pay 1.6 in gross wages from players from abroad. Because of that, that was when they recruited the players whose salaries exceeded what they could spend. And so, once again, you could have one of two things happen. Transfer plans could suffer, or incentives will lead to an increase in investing in Italian talent. And those players obviously would be less expensive than bringing in the high-priced talent that you would have as your top-line stars. But everyone is looking at the government to try to make sure that they reconsider resurrecting the growth decree. So, like I said, we will see what happens with the growth decree and let you know what's going on there, because that could be serious economically for our friends at for our friends in Serie A. And why is it? All right, now I'm mad. Liverpool Arsenal broadcast set a viewership record. Trying to get when I'm trying to dial up what's on today. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot on today other than bowl games anyway. But you know how we go to Soccer America and we sit there and we look at what's going on, and it's like, okay, let's go here and look here, and then of course it doesn't let you look there. So now we're gonna have to rely on our friends at World Soccer Talk to let us know what's going on. Premier League, the streaming schedule for today does not exist because it's all on tomorrow. And looking at, I'll tell you what, traditionally there's always this great grid. And so, of course, right now I'm subscribed to Soccer America. That's where I usually go because it gives it all on the list. They haven't updated it since the 9th of December. Not since the 9th of December, and I'm not happy. Look, Bart, I can go lower divisions just like anybody. Southampton and Plymouth Argyle on the plus at 1 o'clock, 2:45, Coventry City, Swansea City, West Brom, and Leeds at 3:15. And so you mentioned Inter and Genoa today, and Serie A on Paramount Plus, 12:30, doubleheader. Fiorentina, Torino. Napoli and Monza is on Paramount Plus and on CBS Sports Network. 2:45, Lazio, Frosinone on Paramount Plus. Genoa and Inter Milan is on CBS Sports Network and Paramount Plus also at 2:45. Thank you, Bart. No Americans in Serie A, so it's not worth watching. With a wink, yes. So that's the early reports on all of that. And having to sit here and look and go in every single, it's like World Soccer Talk, they give it to you with like leagues and stuff, but trying to sit there and look at it and go, well, I'd like to. But if you are hardcore and you are really looking for things to watch, you can go to our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And what they will give you is CDO for the fans, Teise, all the BNs, Brasileiro, Libertadores access. You can pay extra to watch Libertadores and all the Copas, but you get Brasileiro, Nuestra Tele, it's all there. Jason got me hooked on Fanatis. I blame him. Once again, fntz.co/soccer down here will get you into Fanatis just to add to more of your streaming services and all of that. Bundesliga is off until January 12th, and we mentioned Serie A and La Liga coming up. Is it today or this weekend? They're off until Tuesday. They don't have anything else going on until Tuesday. So there's stuff going on, and I've got to find a better place to sit there and try and find my composites because my Soccer America subscription apparently is being very, very moody, or they're just not updating it because it's the holidays. We'll see what happens after the first. All right. Once again, later today, conversation with Jaden Hibbert and Coach Christopher Bondi at UConn. where we catch up with the top draft pick in the Super Draft for Atlanta United. That'll be posted later today. Prim and Proper posted later today. Also, tomorrow we catch up with Coach Brett Teach, the new head coach for Columbus United. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. That'll be posted to the network. Brett Teach, the new head coach at Columbus United. The NPSL will find out what's going on there with him. Once again, thanks to all of you guys for being a part of SDH as you are, and being a part of the Twitch pitch and the conversations and the live remotes and all the games and all the places we are, all the high school, all of the lower division stuff that we do, the daily shows, all the 1v1s. Thanks for listening, and thanks for spreading the word, and thanks for being a part of the family. We come back in 2022. We got some cool stuff. So we'll start it off with Monday on a Tuesday. Bart Keeler is joining us at 10 a.m. We'll see if Drew Dickinson can join us at 10:30 for another round of Prim and Proper, the review, because if I remember correctly, Maddie is in Chicago until the 3rd, so we're going to let her have a vacation. So it's been another great year with us here at SDH. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us, and we'll be back at it again in short order. Monday, once again, we will run the fix for the MLS All-Star game that we all workshopped on SDH, and we will go Soccer Over Their Marathon 10, 1, and 4 or something like that. So starting at 9 o'clock, we'll fix the All-Star game. Starting at 10 o'clock, Soccer Over Their Marathon on New Year's Day. And the words of Alex are 100% correct. Be kind. Love to you all. Love you all very, very much. And thanks for being a part of everything here. So enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your games. Let's fix the world in 2024 and then focus on world domination. I added to what Alex said. Yeah, Alex wants to fix the world in 24. We can get started on that. We do it a day at a time, and then we'll dominate the world. Hutch, yes, we will definitely see you next year, and everybody on the Twitch pitch. So once again, thanks to everybody in the Discord and all your conversations. One more final shout out from here at Office HD to Abby for the Schiffman family envelope, and to Domer, who battled the elements to bring us the Domer sauce at the end of 2023. You're all amazing in your own ways. It's great to have you as a part of the SDH family. We'll do it again on tape on Monday, live on Tuesday. We'll start 2024. That's the end of this go-round. It's the end of the show. Mucha Platiel played safe. That means I get to do this. We will see you live in 24 on tape through the weekend. Be good, everybody.